Hello, Leo. Do you ever wonder if there's a part of you that was touched by something divine, something only God could give? Well, this might just be the moment you remember. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, and no, it's not a coincidence you found this video today. I truly believe this message found you because you're ready. You're ready to reclaim a truth that's been quietly living inside you. This is a deep spiritual horoscope reading for the Leo zodiac sign, but it's more than that. It's a sacred unveiling of 7 divine gifts God gave only to you, and trust me, the last one may just bring tears to your eyes. Let me ask you this, Leo, have you ever felt like people see your shine, but not your struggle? Like the world celebrates your strength, but forgets how much you carry alone? If you've ever felt unseen in your sincerity, if you've ever stood tall while quietly breaking inside, then this message is for you. Because this video isn't about predicting your next week. It's about remembering your soul's assignment. Each of the 7 gifts we're about to explore isn't just a compliment. It's a piece of the cosmic blueprint written into your being. These are not nice traits, they're sacred powers that God Himself placed inside you, not for approval, but for purpose. Not to impress others, but to light a path that only you can walk. So as we begin this journey together, I invite you to ground yourself for just a moment. Take a breath. And if anything already stirs your heart, drop a comment below that says, "I'm ready to receive my divine gift." Also, share an angel number that's been showing up in your life. You never know who else needs to see it too. Before we dive into the sacred list, let me take a second to say this. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for every like, every comment, and every moment you've chosen to spend with this growing family we call Eternal Mindfulness. Your support, your presence, allows us to bring messages like this into the world. And believe me, dear Leo, you're going to want to stay with me until the very end. Because what God is revealing to you in this moment is nothing short of breathtaking. Now let me ask you, what have you done recently, or what has the universe seen in your spirit, that guided you here, right now? Something in your soul has been calling for truth, and it's time you hear it clearly. Let's begin. There's something quietly magnetic about Leo, something unspoken, yet undeniably powerful. It isn't just their presence, or their warmth, or even their confidence. It's the inner flame they carry, one that doesn't demand to be seen, but naturally illuminates everything around it. This fire is not about dominance. It's not about taking control. It's about being so fully oneself that others are gently drawn back to their own truth, simply by standing beside it. That's the heart of Leo's first sacred gift, a radiant presence that leads not by force, but by being. True leadership, in this light, is not performance. It's not charisma layered on top of insecurity. It's the soft but steady gravity of someone who knows who they are and stands rooted in it. There's an ancient wisdom that says, when the heart is still, the world aligns around it. Leo, your strength lies in that stillness, not the loud kind, but the steady, luminous kind. You don't need to assert your power. The moment you walk into a room, people feel more grounded, more certain. That's not ego, it's energy. And your gift is to hold that energy with both integrity and generosity. There may have been moments in your life when this leadership felt like a burden. When people looked to you for guidance you weren't sure you had. when your courage was expected before you even had time to feel your own fears. But even in those moments, your fire remained, not because you were performing, but because something deeper within you always knew when it was time to rise. You didn't need a script. You didn't need applause. You just needed to trust that your being is already an offering. That brings us to the second gift, one that is less visible, but just as profound, your intuitive sense of timing. You may not always know how you know. But when something is right, or wrong, you feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the rhythm of your steps. There's a still space within you, Leo, that listens without effort. And that stillness gives birth to remarkable clarity. Unlike impulsivity, which acts to avoid discomfort, this kind of intuition is deeply tuned. You might wait when others rush. You might speak only after listening deeply. And in doing so, you often say what needed to be said, no more, no less. This awareness of right timing isn't hesitation. It's mastery. Just as the sun doesn't rise until the moment is ripe, you too emerge only when the moment truly calls for you. What's beautiful about this combination, fire and discernment, is that it makes you a leader people trust. Not out of obligation, but out of recognition. They feel your inner stability, and it helps them find their own. You don't instruct from a distance, you stand with. You don't push, you invite. And often, without even meaning to, you model what it means to act without attachment, to move without proving anything. In many teachings of self-mastery, there's a principle: the more clearly you see yourself, the less you need others to validate what you already know. Leo, your fire shows the world what it looks like to walk in that clarity. And your timing reminds us that true power is not in rushing to arrive, but in showing up fully, when it matters most. So if you've ever doubted the quiet choices you've made, the pause before you spoke, the moment you held back while others raced ahead, know this: that was your gift in action. That was leadership without control. That was trust without noise. That was the part of you that has always known when to shine, and when to let others step into their own light. And that knowing? That grace? It's not something you learned. It's something only God could have given you. When Leo loves, something sacred awakens, but not in a way the world always expects. Your love doesn't roar. It doesn't demand. Instead, it flows in gestures so natural, so present, that others may not even realize they've been healed until long after you've walked away. Your gift of love is the kind that holds space, the kind that looks someone in the eye and says, "You are worthy, even now." Even when you can't see it. And this, Leo, is no small act. In a world where many are constantly trying to prove themselves, you are a rare reminder that being seen, gently, honestly, is enough to help someone begin again. This is the third sacred gift, your ability to offer love that is both bold and unspoken. The kind that strengthens people quietly. You may not always be the one giving grand declarations or romantic scripts. But you're the one who remembers how someone likes their coffee. The one who notices when a friend's energy shifts, even slightly. The one who shows up, again and again, with presence, not performance. Your love is an act of recognition. And that recognition heals. There is a quiet teaching in many wisdom traditions that speaks of knowing through stillness. That real understanding doesn't come from asking or explaining, but from simply sitting in presence long enough that the truth reveals itself. Leo, your love has this quality. When you listen, you don't just hear, you absorb. And when you speak, it's not to fix, but to uplift. This is why your affection creates safety. Because it isn't offered as a condition, it's given as a reflection. I see who you really are, and I choose to stand with you. And perhaps even more subtle is your next gift, the way you light up spaces just by existing. You don't have to perform to be noticed. You don't have to control the room to influence it. You simply arrive, and the energy begins to shift. This isn't about ego. It's about the natural magnetic field that your heart generates when it's open. Whether you're in a small room or under the bright lights, your presence carries with it a sense of celebration, of life, of warmth, of renewal. You remind others that joy is possible here, now, in this exact moment. This capacity to uplift the atmosphere around you is something that often goes unspoken, but deeply felt. People may not always be able to explain why they feel lighter after being with you. They might just say, "There's something about you." And there is. What they're sensing is your ability to create space that's emotionally breathable, a space where people can set down their armor and simply be. It could be the way you arrange a room, the way you smile, the way your laughter softens the air. But more than that, it's the intention behind it all, your instinct to create harmony, not by force, but by frequency. Much like a flame that warms without burning, you bring life into places that have grown cold. You don't do it to be admired. You do it because it's who you are. And perhaps this is what makes your influence so powerful. It is effortless. You don't try to shine. You are the shine. In a life where so many chase recognition, you embody a different truth. Authentic presence is the highest offering. And you give it again and again, through kindness, through consistency, through your very way of being. These two gifts, a love that affirms, and a presence that elevates, are not roles you've rehearsed. They are the natural consequences of living from your heart. And that, Leo, is what makes you unforgettable. There's a kind of presence that doesn't ask to be seen, yet once it's there, everything feels different. That's the quiet power Leo carries, a steady, warm assurance that doesn't need to speak to be felt. After all the light and fire you naturally radiate through leadership, timing, and love, this next sacred gift is something even more subtle, yet deeply transformative, the ability to bring calm confidence to any space simply by showing up. This isn't about fixing anything, or even saying the right words. It's about being, fully, quietly, and with such unwavering steadiness that others begin to feel safe again, even if just for a moment. People often associate strength with action, with intensity, with noise. But real strength, the kind that creates lasting trust, often looks like calm. It looks like someone who doesn't flinch when others panic. Someone who doesn't rush to react, but instead holds still long enough for clarity to rise to the surface. You do this naturally, Leo. Your stillness is not a void, it's a container. One that holds emotion without judgment, holds space without pressure, and gently teaches others how to ground themselves by simply being grounded first. There's an old teaching that says, when the heart is quiet, wisdom flows in. And you, Leo, have that kind of heart. A heart that knows when to speak and when to simply be. A heart that carries such deep inner knowing that others can borrow your steadiness when theirs has been shaken. It's not something you try to do. It's something your energy just offers, like a flame that stays lit in the wind, reminding others that not all light goes out when things get dark. When you're present, people don't need the answers immediately. They don't need solutions or even comfort through words. They just need to know they're not alone. That the sky won't fall, not yet, not while you're here. This kind of presence can't be taught. It isn't something you earn. It's a natural quality that arises from living with deep alignment, the kind that doesn't try to control the world, but knows how to meet it, exactly as it is. Think about the times someone has thanked you, not for doing anything grand, but simply for being there. That silent moment when your hand on their shoulder said more than any speech ever could. Or that feeling you give others when your eyes meet theirs, and they suddenly breathe a little deeper, as if remembering that they're safe now. These are not coincidences. These are quiet miracles. And they happen because your energy is rooted, resilient, and real. In moments of uncertainty, your presence is the lighthouse. You may not always see the effect you have, but those around you feel it. Like the sun parting clouds, even briefly, your energy makes people believe again. Believe that there's a way forward. Believe that they can keep going. Believe that hope still lives, even if it's flickering low. This gift is not about emotional distance. On the contrary, it comes from being so attuned to your own emotions that you can hold space for others without getting lost in theirs. You are not a rescuer. You are not trying to save. You are simply there, and that alone shifts everything. Your ability to radiate calm is not a shield that protects you from the world. It's a bridge, one that connects others back to themselves. You don't absorb chaos. You transmute it. You don't deflect pain. You soften it. And in doing so, you remind those around you of something they've forgotten in the noise. They are safe enough to heal. So if you've ever questioned your value in a room where you said little but stayed present, if you've wondered whether your presence mattered even when your voice was quiet, let this be your reminder. You are the anchor others didn't know they needed. And you don't have to say a word to remind the world that peace is still possible. All you have to do is be there, just as you are. After offering so much light to the world, through love, presence, and unshakable steadiness, there comes a moment when even Leo must pause. Not because your fire is fading, but because even the sun rests before it rises again. This sixth sacred gift is one that often gets overlooked, especially by those who are naturally generous with their time, energy, and attention. But it may be the most essential of all, the ability to treat self-care not as indulgence, but as sacred maintenance of your life force. You see, Leo, your energy is magnetic. People are drawn to you because you ignite something in them: hope, joy, possibility. But this doesn't mean you owe your energy to every moment or every person. There's a quiet wisdom in recognizing that the more you give, the more gently you must tend to your own roots. This isn't retreating. It's renewing. In the same way a flame is protected from the wind, your vitality needs shelter from overextension. And your power lies in knowing when it's time to step back, not to disappear, but to reclaim. What many forget is that self-care, when done with true presence, becomes a ritual. When you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what aligns with you. When you choose rest, even when your to-do list begs otherwise, you honor your wholeness. When you step into a hot shower with the intention of releasing the noise of the day, you're not escaping, you're purifying. These simple acts, done mindfully, carry the same clarity as any great wisdom. They're not escapes from purpose. They're returns to it. There's a quiet teaching that suggests, your body is not a tool, it's a companion. And Leo, your companionship with yourself matters. You are not just the fire others gather around. You are also the keeper of that flame. So if your body is calling for stillness, listen. If your emotions are stretched thin, offer them breath. If your spirit feels scattered, let silence gather the pieces. These are not signs of failure, they are signals of growth. True vitality comes not from endless output, but from balanced regeneration. Consider how often you've pushed through fatigue out of love for others, or stayed longer in a conversation because you didn't want someone to feel alone. These are beautiful expressions of your heart. But imagine what happens when that same heart is nourished first. When your own inner fire is tended with the same care you offer so freely. What you create then is not just energy, it's resonance. You become not just present, but radiant. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is close your eyes, breathe deeply, and do absolutely nothing. Not forever. Just long enough to feel yourself again. In that stillness, your body resets. Your mind softens. Your inner voice, the one that knows what truly matters, grows clearer. And you remember that your worth is not tied to how much you do, but how fully you are. Whether it's a morning walk in silence, a bowl of sun-colored fruit, a pause in your schedule to feel the sunlight on your face, every act of care becomes a message to yourself, I matter. I am enough. I deserve restoration. These aren't luxury moments. They are foundational. They are what allow you to continue showing up for others without betraying yourself. And so, Leo, this gift is an invitation to treat your own well-being as sacred. To understand that tending to your vessel is not self-centered, it's soul-aligned. When you are well, your joy is magnetic. When you are rested, your clarity sharpens. When you are whole, your presence heals without effort. You are not just a giver of light. You are its guardian. And that guardianship begins within. There is a kind of power that doesn't seek attention, and yet, wherever it goes, it leaves a trail of transformation. This final sacred gift, your royal heart, is not about dominance or control. It's about the natural grace with which you hold space for others to remember who they are. After all the gifts that have unfolded, presence, intuition, love, radiance, and sacred self-care, this one feels like the culmination. It is the deep recognition that your life is not just about shining for yourself, but about lighting the way for others without ever dimming your own flame. What makes this gift so profound is its quiet confidence. You don't lead by demanding. You lead by embodying. By simply showing up as your full, unapologetic self, fierce when needed, tender when moved, grounded always, you give silent permission for others to step into their truth. And that is no small thing. Many people live their entire lives waiting for someone to show them what it looks like to live freely. You do that by example. The image of royalty here isn't about wearing a crown or ruling over anyone. It's about carrying yourself with the kind of dignity and intentionality that lifts the atmosphere around you. You create a kingdom not of subjects, but of possibility. A space where people feel safe enough to rise, seen enough to grow, and inspired enough to act. This is leadership in its highest form, not a performance, but a presence. Not persuasion, but alignment. There's a teaching that says when one person becomes free, they unconsciously free many others. And Leo, your freedom is contagious. When you choose integrity over approval, when you stand tall in your authenticity, when you create without asking for permission, you activate something ancient in the people who witness you. You remind them that they, too, have a light worth honoring. And in this way, your very existence becomes a living invitation. Come home to yourself. This is the heart of your legacy, not what you build with your hands, but what you awaken in others through your being. And like all true royalty, you know that service isn't about sacrifice. It's about standing in your truth so fully that others feel safe standing in theirs. You're not here to fix people. You're here to walk beside them, torch in hand, reminding them of the path they forgot they could take. Even when you doubt your impact, even when you question if your light has reached anyone, trust that it has. Just as the sun doesn't see the flowers bloom beneath it, you may not always witness the lives you've touched. But the seeds are there. Quietly planted by your kindness, your courage, your unwavering presence. And just as important is your ability to lead yourself. The royal heart doesn't wait to be chosen, it chooses. It chooses integrity when it's easier to bend. It chooses depth when the world prefers shallow. It chooses creativity even in uncertainty. And through these choices, day by day, you become the kind of leader the world needs more of, one rooted in truth, unafraid of joy, and unwilling to settle for anything less than soul-aligned living. So let this be your reminder, Leo, you don't need permission to shine. That brilliance, that ability to carry both fire and wisdom, was written into you long before the world asked you to tone it down. You were never meant to shrink to fit. You were meant to expand, and in doing so, stretch the sky wide open for others, too. Your mission is not to be perfect. It is to be real. And when you live that truth, you become a lighthouse for others still lost in the fog, not by calling them out, but by lighting the path back home. And that, dear Leo, is what it means to lead with a royal heart. Leo, you don't have to try so hard to prove anything anymore. You don't need to roar to be heard, or shine brighter to be seen. Your true light doesn't beg for attention, it simply exists, powerfully, quietly, and undeniably. The 7 sacred gifts we've just explored aren't here to decorate your identity or inflate your image. They're here to help you remember. Remember that you are the miracle. You are the spark. You are the one who inspires not by effort, but by essence. And maybe, just maybe, along the way, you forgot that. Maybe there were days you felt too much for this world, too bold, too sensitive, too passionate. Or days you felt not enough, not loud enough, not successful enough, not ready. But right now, as you sit here with me in this moment, I want to remind you of something that only your soul knows how to fully receive. You've always been enough. Your journey hasn't been about earning your worth. It's been about uncovering it. These gifts, your natural leadership, intuitive timing, unconditional love, radiant energy, calming presence, sacred self-care, and your royal heart, they're not goals to chase. They're truths to reclaim. So I invite you to pause and ask yourself gently, what would happen if you allowed your light to simply exist? What might shift if you stopped explaining, stopped shrinking, stopped waiting for someone else's permission, and instead chose, in this very breath, to stand in your fullness? The world doesn't need you to be louder. It needs you to be real. It needs your authenticity more than your perfection. It needs your wholeness more than your hustle. So if any part of today's message has resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Write, I choose to live in my light. And share an angel number that's been appearing in your life, one that speaks to you, even if you don't know why yet. That number might just carry the frequency someone else here needs to see, too. And if this message touched you in any way, please give this video a like, hit subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Because maybe, just maybe, your light today is the exact hope someone else is silently praying for. Thank you for being here with me, for walking this path with open eyes and an open heart. Every single comment, every like, every soul that joins this eternal mindfulness family helps us carry these messages further into the world. Messages that heal, empower, and gently awaken us to what's already within. Now go live it, Leo. Not in fear. Not in striving. But in truth. Because you were never meant to be small. You were meant to rise, again, and again, with grace, with fire, and with the quiet knowing that you are the light. And the light doesn't need to prove itself. It just needs to be.